Doctor, I'm a Time Lord. I'm from the planet Gallifrey in the constellation of Kasterborous.
I hope the ears are a bit less conspicuous this time.
You might be a doctor, but I am
I'm a doctor, but probably not the one who looks good. Absolutely fantastic.
All of time and space, everything that ever happened or ever will. Where do you want to start?
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Big Undy Inside the New Who Doctor Who Watch Along podcast. It's the Doctor Who anniversary, Harry. It's November the 23rd.
Yeah, oh boy, happy 59th, 58th birthday?
57th?
57th?
I think it's
When's
57th.
2023. Is it 57th birthday? Oh, yeah, so it's the 57th birthday.
Yeah, we got there at the end. Sing happy birthday, Harry.
Okay. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Doctor Who. Happy birthday to you. Why did you just let me keep going? Like,
I don't know.
No one wants to listen.
I thought you might have done it as Christopher Eccleston, but you didn't.
Oh, do you want me to do it as Christopher Eccleston?
You can try.
Hello, Doctor Who. It's me, Christopher Eccleston, and I hope you have one fantastic birthday. 57 years old. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Doctor Who. Happy birthday to you. Use that one. Use that take.
So today we're going to be talking about the first ever Doctor Who anniversary special, the 10th anniversary special. That is the Three Doctors, the first ever multi-Doctor story. This is our first jump into Classic Who. How did you find it?
This is actually the first Classic Who episode I've ever watched.
Seriously?
Yeah, I've never watched it. I've seen like clips and stuff of Classic Who. I've seen like a single episode of certain episodes, but this is the first full classic Doctor story that I've watched.
I think I might agree with you there. I've seen episodes of Demons, but I've never seen all 4 episodes of Demons. I may have seen an episode of Classic Who, but this is the first Classic Who story that I've seen all the way through.
Yeah.
But no, I think a lot of people maybe think they've seen a lot of Classic Who, but when what they've actually seen is just YouTube clips of episodes, which I think is what a lot of people have now seen.
Yeah.
So
and obviously watching kind of certain scenes and clips in isolation is very different to watching a whole kind of, 4-part story as a package.
Yeah. How did you find that, it being a 4-parter, like it actually being a story rather than just an episode?
It was very, very different to New Who. Like, I know people say that New Who and Classic Who are, different shows, but you don't really realize just how different shows they are until kind of, you go back and watch it. It feels different, it looks different, it's written differently. They really are their own kind of entities.
Yeah, even down to like the formatting of how an episode is. Like an episode of Who today is 45 minutes. These are like 20, 25 minutes long. Which baffles me because today on TV, you never get a program that is less than half hour long.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
You get like your news bulletins, which are like 15 minutes, but for something to be creditable, it's half an hour.
Yeah. And it's weird, like, watching it because I was going from, like, a bunch of New Who to this. There was a bit of that kind of... It took some adjusting that kind of at 24 minutes, which is kind of when, in a New Who episode, the action would start rolling. That's when an episode would end. And you have to move on to the next one here.
Yeah. So we'll start... We'll go from episode to episode, but we can jump around. So episode 1, the Three Doctors, episode 1... Let's start with the very first thing we see, which is the Doctor Who opening titles with John Pertwee's big old face. What did you think to them?
The opening titles, I thought they were cool. I thought they were pretty cool. I like the... Was the theme, is that still like the first version of the Doctor Who theme that they were using?
I think it's changed ever so slightly.
Yeah.
I think it's maybe the same tune, but just remastered. Not like today where it's a mismatch of all sorts of different things and there's loose ties to the original in there. I think this is almost the same, but just redone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was cool. I liked, it was very was it 70s or late 60s?
This would have been 10 years, so 73.
70s, yeah. It felt very 70s, like it was these kind of bright, slightly psychedelic colors, but kind of a bit more kind of techno. I mean, and obviously just the way John Pertwee dresses, this 70s kind of dandy.
Yeah.
It feels very 70s. Yeah.
What did you feel to Pertwee with him?
works.
Sorry, with him being your sort of first ever into Classic Who, he being your first classic Doctor, how did you find him?
He was very different, which I guess kind of jumping into Classic Who from New Who, I think we probably take it a bit for granted how by the time he got to New Who, there had been a lot of kind of, characteristics of the Doctor that had been very clearly kind of marked out, like the Doctor acts a bit, acts like this. They have these kind of principles. They'll do this, they won't do this. But, by the third Doctor, they were still kind of figuring that stuff out. So, he was kind of, although he didn't take part in any of the unit kind of warfare, guns are blazing, like he was working with them. Like he was very much kind of employed by unit, which is something going from New Who, that's something that's very kind of unfamiliar territory.
Yeah, well, the story is the third Doctor is that when the second Doctor regenerates, he gets isolated to Earth, and the TARDIS doesn't work, and they take away, they give him the TARDIS, but it doesn't have the ability to travel in time or space, so he gets a job at UNIT.
Yeah, because it's only at the end of this 4-part story that the Time Lords give the Doctor the ability to actually use the TARDIS freely.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah. It's actually, when you watch this first episode, we compare it to the 50th, which starts with John Hurt's War Doctor. Does it?
No,
it doesn't. It starts with Clara and then to the Doctor. Yeah. With this, there's a good 3 or 4 minutes before we see the Doctor.
Yeah. Well, I guess...
No, go on.
I guess that kind of with having like stories extended into 4 parts, they kind of have the opportunity to spend a bit more time just kind of in the first part especially, kind of establishing stuff, setting things up. Yeah. And then it's kind of from the second part onwards that the ball really gets rolling.
Yeah.
And maybe it was just adjusting for me, but it felt like quite a slow start, this first part of the story.
Yeah,
a lot of kind of, talking about this strange anomaly that's happened, the threat being introduced. It's only towards the very end of the story that multiple Doctors get introduced.
Yeah, it is, yeah. John Pertwee's companion in this is Jo Grant, played by Kate Manning, who came before Elizabeth Slade and Sarah Jane. What do you think to Jo Grant? I think she's fantastic.
No, she's great. I mean, yeah, it's hard to judge her based on this one episode, but it's very clear that she's well defined in the kind of companion role, and that she's like kind of fitting that purpose quite well.
Yeah, she reminds me a lot of Clara. There's a lot of similarities there, I feel, between those two. A lot of similarities actually between Clara and the Doctor, with Clara and Jo and 3 and 12. 12, it seems, Capaldi took a lot of inspiration from Pertwee's Doctor, I feel.
You think so?
Yeah, especially in Capaldi's first series, where he's quite a hard guy. He doesn't show much emotion. Maybe not so much towards the end, but this sort of bullshit sort of guy. You know what I mean?
I mean, yeah, that is something about Pertwee's Doctor that kind of we're used to now, the Doctor being quite alien, and acting quite alien. But here, really, Pertwee, the way his Doctor kind of acts, isn't super out of place, other than the fact that he dresses eccentrically and that he kind of knows he knows stuff about kind of the alien world that humans don't. On the whole, he acts pretty much like a normal human being.
Yeah, definitely. We also get introduced to the Brigadier. Well, obviously, not as for the people who actually watch the series. For us in this episode, we get introduced to the Brigadier, a character that still has remnants in Doctor Who today. He still has the occasional appearance, no matter how that be. And also, you know, even up to Twice Upon a Time, Capaldi's last episode, The Brigadier. Yes, for those who can't see, Harry's saluted at me. We'll touch on that. Even in Capaldi's last ever episode, The Brigadier has some connection to that. I think The Brigadier is as somebody who mainly knows The Brigadier through Passing and through New Who and not so much through Classic Who, it was actually really nice to see that character. I felt like I already knew who he was.
Oh, sorry.
No, go on. How did you feel about him?
I mean, I've heard a lot of love for Brigadier. I know that the Brigadier is kind of, while he's never been kind of a permanent companion in the same way that those who travel the Doctor are, he had a very big presence in Classic Who, and he's very, very beloved. Yeah. I was actually surprised at how kind of he seemed almost not antagonistic towards the Doctor, but very kind of skeptical of the Doctor.
Yeah,
he was always kind of this militaristic foil to him, which was, I don't know if like that's how he's like with every Doctor, or it's just because of like this episode being particularly exceptional, but he was more kind of dubious. But that's an interesting dynamic, which I think, you know, is more interesting than what I'd imagined he was going to be like in my mind.
No, yeah, because I believe I'm just having a quick look on Google, because I believe the Brigadier was in at least an episode with every classic Doctor.
I'm guessing except for Hartnell.
Except for Hartnell, yeah.
Well, unless you count this one.
Yeah, that's true. So yeah, he appeared with every classic Doctor. Apart from McGann, obviously, wasn't in the TV movie. Was he in the TV movie? I don't think he was. Let me check, otherwise we'll only get emails. No, but I'm sure they've met on Big Finish at some point. One thing that I really love about the Brigadier is his continuation in Doctor Who. I think the first time I was ever properly introduced to the Brigadier was in the Sarah Jane Adventures, where he makes an appearance.
I know he was in an episode.
Yeah, he makes an appearance in one of those. And he was also due to appear in The Wedding of Sarah Jane, which starred David Tennant. He was meant to be a guest at the wedding. But unfortunately, the actor Nicholas... Oh, God, I can never remember. I always want to call him Nicholas Briggs.
It's Nicholas Courtney, right?
Nicholas Courtney, I believe, yeah. Was too ill, so wasn't able to film. There's an interview online with David Tennant where they asked David, Matt, and Jodie if they could travel with another Doctor's companion, who would it be? And Jodie says she would like to travel with Rory. Matt says he would like to travel with Rose, and the Doctor's like, "Oh, I'd like to travel with the Brigadier." And David Tennant's like, but David Tennant was so gutted because he was like, every Doctor apart from up to that point, apart from Chris, had met the Brigadier. And it was sort of his time to have an episode with the Brigadier, but it wasn't to be, which is quite sad because I like the Brigadier. There's a Matt Smith episode as well where he phones up the Brigadier to see if he wants to hang out again, but he phones up the hospital where the Brigadier has been staying to find out the Brigadier has passed away.
Yeah, that was like kind of trip Nicholas Courtney, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's really sweet. That I remember a couple of years ago, I binge watched all New Who. And that was a moment I completely forgot about. It really caught me off guard. And then again with Capaldi, where he returns as a Cyberman. Now, some people have a problem with this. I personally don't. I think it's quite a touching tribute.
I feel like I don't know the Brigadier well enough yet to make a call on that.
Yeah.
Watching from a New Who perspective, and as someone who didn't really have any connection to the Brigadier, like I can see both ways. Like I can see how kind of on one hand it is kind of a nice tribute to the character, but then on the other hand, the whole thing of just the image of Capaldi saluting a Cyberman can be interpreted as kind of goofy.
Yeah. Also, we never mentioned that Kate Lethbridge Stewart is a relative of the Brigadier, so even the family name continues.
I feel like need to watch more Classic Who and get more a sense of the Brigadier's character to make a proper judgment on that tribute
Yeah.
in that new Who story.
Yeah. We get a glimpse of the sonic screwdriver, which has a really strange sound. Did you notice that?
I didn't hear it sound.
It's like
very
it's just,
different.
it's just like a vibrate. It just vibrates. It doesn't have a buzz or a whistle. It's just like it's like this really irritating vibrating sound. It's the three doctors, so we may as well get straight to it. Patrick Troughton, my personal favourite classic Doctor, is the first and probably really one of the only of the three Doctors we get to see in this special.
Oh dear, we are in trouble, aren't we? Just as when I turned up.
Doctor, where did you spring from?
Now don't tell me. Corporal Benton, isn't it?
Sergeant Benton now.
How do you do, my dear?
Nice to see you.
I haven't seen you since that nasty business with the Cybermen.
All those years ago.
See, and how did he get in here?
Well, it's a bit difficult to explain, Joe.
He's not one of them, is he?
Well, not so much one of them as one of us. One of me, to be precise.
Oh, no. I'm sorry, my dear. I hate to be contrary, but I can see he's a little bit confused, poor old chap, and I do feel you should have the correct explanation. You don't mind, do you?
Yes.
I didn't think you would. You see, Joe, I may call you Joe Maintime. You see, he is one of me.
Oh, I see. You're both Time Lords.
Well, quite. Well, not quite.
Oh.
Not just Time Lords. We're the same Time Lord.
Now, please, you're only confusing my assistant. Joe, it's all quite simple. I am he, and he is me.
And we are all together, Goo Goo Kichu?
What?
It's a song by the Beatles.
How does it go?
Oh, please be quiet.
Look, is he really you?
Yes, I'm afraid so.
I think he is, Miss Grant. You see, when the Brig and I first met the Doctor, he looked like him.
How?
Yeah, that's what I'd like to know. You've got no right to be here.
Perhaps-
What about the first law of time?
Perhaps I could explain.
Perhaps you could.
Well, our fellow Time Lords out there are just as much under siege as we are.
What?
And they couldn't send anyone to help you. But they did summon up enough temporal energy to lift me out of my bit of our time stream and pop me down here, into my own future, so to speak.
I think he's fantastic in this. I think he's so good. Obviously, I'm slightly biased with him being one of my favourite Doctors, but the way he's able to dance around dialogue and the way he plays with it and it just rolls off his tongue, I think he's so perfect. It's brilliant.
Yeah. Like I'd heard a lot that there were a lot of kind of Doctors like since Troughton who like cited Troughton as kind of their main inspiration. Like I know that I think Pete Davidson cited Troughton as his inspiration, as did McCoy. And then Matt Smith hadn't watched any Doctor Who when he got the part, but then he rewatched some Classic Who and he adored what Troughton did.
Yeah.
And you can, like, when I saw Troughton and when Troughton entered, I was like, oh, okay, this is where kind of the foundation of the Doctor's character today started. Because Troughton, like, is kind of where you see, you know, that quirkiness, that alienness, that thing where he acts a bit goofy, but kind of under the surface, he kind of knows more that's going on and he lets on.
Yeah.
He's just very intriguing and he doesn't quite steal every scene he's in. I feel like him and Pertwee played off each other very well. And I really like the way that they both kind of bicker and butt heads because they're very different Doctors.
Yeah, well, behind the scenes thing is that when they were handed the scripts and they would do read-throughs and stuff, Pertwee was the line says this on the page, I will read that line. That's what it says, I will read it out how it is written. Whereas Troughton, I guess, which plays into what I said about him being able to dance over dialogue quite well. Say, for example, if the line was, come in, my dear, would you like a cup of tea? He would say, oh, come in, make yourself at home. Would you like a cup of tea? The kettle's on. That's what he would say. So he would sort of, the same message would be there, but he would change it. And apparently at first, Pertwee would be slightly frustrated by this because obviously a lot of the dialogue is Pertwee, Troughton, back and forth between the two. And Pertwee would be like, I don't know when he's finished speaking. So you do notice in that first episode, mainly, there's bits where they talk over each other a little bit, or they stutter a bit when the other person's talking because they think it's their cue, but it's not. It's probably because Patrick Troughton's just making the lines up as he goes along.
It really works though, and it's very fun. Like my favorite parts from this whole story were just the scenes with Troughton and Pertwee together, and just the way that they both kind of like kind of, you know, the things that they have. Like, I feel like this is the thing that's always interesting with Doctor crossovers, which is kind of the things they have in common and the things that they don't have in common, and just how they kind of, the moments where the two Doctors really kind of brush up against each other and really like clash, and then the parts where they're really harmonious and working together, and you get those two extremes so much, and it's just fun to watch. It's really fun to watch, and it's kind of amazing that kind of with this first ever multi-Doctor story, they were able to kind of identify what made these kind of stories so like interesting and really hone in on that.
Yeah. Did you pick up on a line where Troughton walks into the TARDIS and he says, "Oh, you've redecorated. I don't like it."
Oh yeah.
Which has just been echoed through Who history for years to come.
I mean, that was a bit of a catchphrase for Troughton, wasn't it?
No, I don't think so. I think he just says it in this one episode. And since then...
I thought it was something he said a few times.
No, I don't think so. I think it's just the one. And then throughout Who history, everybody says it. Ten says it in the 50th. Clara says it in Deep Breath, or The Magician's Apprentice, whichever one, I can't remember. I think River Song says it at some point as well. So he gets more.
Even Moffat likes that line.
Yeah, it gets said a lot. I'm just looking through my notes. Did you notice the boom mic at 21 minutes, 19 seconds?
But I did not. You probably have a better eye camera than I do.
Just suddenly out the top of the screen, just like this little boom mic, and it just disappears. I was like, oh, someone's dropped a boom.
I know that like back when it came to filming in the 60s, didn't really have a chance to like do retakes because of just kind of the way TV shows are filmed. Did they have opportunities to do many retakes in the 70s, or was it kind of a similar thing where like in an episode they could only make a couple of retakes? For the most part, it was like live.
It was probably quite similar. And also what we might find is, I know the version I watched was a special edition, so we may be seeing more picture than what we actually saw in 1973, if you know what I mean.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
I see.
What do you think to Contact?
Oh, the thing that really caught me off guard.
It did,
and I'm still not. Is that just their way of? Can you just clarify for me, because I've never seen that before? When they make contact, is that them just like? Is it their way of like sharing thoughts quickly without having to talk about it?
I think it is. I think it's a quick way, instead of having the Doctor explaining to himself scientific mumbo jumbo that the audience wouldn't understand. They just tell it to each other and then they do it, and we work out what it is by watching them do it.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's something that's ever been done since. It most certainly didn't happen in the 50th. It didn't happen in Time Crash. It didn't happen in Twice Upon a Time. I don't believe it happened in the Two Doctors either. So it's quick.
The closest example I can think is is a story called The Lodger with James Corden.
Oh, and they bang heads, don't they?
Yeah, but that's obviously not Contact.
And David Tennant just kisses everybody to tell them his faults.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then David and Jodie have like a raised mind thing.
That's true, they do.
The Doctors have a lot of kind of mind tricks that they only use a handful of times.
Yeah, I feel like this was maybe a plot device just to speed up the plot slightly. Maybe they're like, oh, well, we can't just keep having them explain stuff to each other. What can we do? Oh, we'll just have them contact. And then they just stand there and it goes beep, 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 for about 30 seconds and gives everybody a migraine. One mistake I did notice is when they look at, we'll get on to Hartnell. When Hartnell appears on the TV screen and they're looking at him, you can see where the TARDIS set ends and where the rest of the studio is.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah, if you look, you can see like Pertwee and Troughton, the Brigadier, Joe, and Sergeant Benson, and then just like the edge of the TARDIS set, and then just like the rest of the studio.
It was the 70s.
Yeah. So not Troughton, sorry, not Pertwee, flipping heck. Hartnell's in this. Hartnell's in this.
Yeah.
Very, very briefly throughout the 4 episodes, but he's there. Thoughts on Hartnell?
I was surprised that he appeared as much as he did. Like, I only knew about his first scene, and I thought that was it. Yeah, but I thought it was cool that they'd found a way to kind of feed him into all 4 parts, and that kind of, he served a bit of a different purpose, obviously, as kind of, his role was kind of a go-between for the Time Lords and the 2 active Doctors.
Yeah,
I mean, it makes me kind of question.
Sorry, go on.
And this is probably something I have no authority questioning, because this is the only classic Who I've watched so far, but it makes me question, like, from what point in time this version of the First Doctor is. Like, is this the First Doctor before he runs away from Gallifrey with the TARDIS, if he's, like, just in correspondence with the Time Lords, casually like this?
Yeah, honestly, I don't know. They sort of touch on it a bit with Troughton, don't they, where the Brigadier's sort of listing all this stuff, and he sort of, and Troughton says, yeah, I sort of remember some of this, but I might do and I might not. I don't really know. So they sort of touch on it a little bit, but they don't give a definitive answer.
Yeah.
Hartnell's involvement was originally, it was meant to be bigger, because they phoned, the producers phoned Troughton up and they said, do you want to be in it? And he said yes. And they phoned Hartnell up and they said, do you want to be in it? And he said yes. So they got 2 writers involved who started writing the story, and they'd finished writing the first episode and they handed it into the BBC. And then they got a phone call from William Hartnell's wife, who says, Bills keeps saying he's going to be in Doctor Who again. What's going on? And one of the producers says, well, we haven't got a contract for it, but he said he'd be happy to be in the 10th anniversary with Troughton and Pertwee and da-da-da-da-da. To which his wife says, you must have caught him on one of his good days, because there's no way he's well enough to be able to appear as the Doctor as you wish in all 4 episodes. It's just not going to happen. So they went back and forth negotiating. And then basically on one day, a car turned up at Hartnell's house, took him to Ealing Studios in London. They put a load of makeup on him, put him in his costume, sat him in a chair in front of a blackboard, and someone on the other side of the camera held big cards with the lines on it, and he just read it off the board.
Yeah.
Because my understanding is that he was in love with the role from my understanding of An Adventure in Space and Time, and that he loved being the Doctor, and that giving it up wasn't something he particularly wanted to do but had to do through ill health. So I imagine being able to return was something of a treat, even if he wasn't 100% dedicated to it. Not dedicated, that's the wrong word. Wasn't fully, even he knew he wasn't fully able to commit to it properly.
Yeah, but the fact is, I mean, it's kind of, like you said, like, obvious. It's very obvious from watching that his role is limited, and there are a lot of limitations. Obviously, his health wasn't the best at that point. But kind of, it's a way his inclusion is kind of as much a thing, kind of a nice thing for Hartnell as it is for us as the viewers. Like, it's nice that he got to do a multi-Doctor story, and that we have that, but also it's kind of nice that he had that opportunity to return to that role that he loved so much.
Yeah, there was a part in the 4th part where he says, Hartnell passes a comment about being, I'm gonna have to get involved more or something like that. And part of me thought, is he actually going to appear? We're going to get a shot of the 3 of them all together, but it never happened. I just thought, has that been something that's just slipped me by all the years? Because there are promo shots of the 3 of them all stood together and things like that, but not for the actual episode.
Well, I'm guessing they were kind of doctored.
Pardon?
I'm guessing they were, without, for lack of a better word, they were doctored photos.
Oh, no, I think it's a legit photo of Troughton. I'll see if I can dig it up for you now.
Just a second, I'm getting a phone call.
All right, just let me pause this.
Hiya.
That one. I pushed the right button for a change. Yeah, this is the picture I was trying to tell you about. If I can share it. There you go. There's the three of them together.
Oh wow, yeah, the three
Oh, I
really
clicked on-
did. Wow, I wonder when that happened.
I don't know. I think it was mainly for promo stuff for the show.
Yeah.
Maybe it was on the day Hartnell recorded all of his lines. I'm not totally sure.
Maybe.
Anyway,
I didn't realize there was a time when the three of them properly met face to face. So that's pretty cool that those images exist and that they did that, even if it was a promo shoot. Yeah. I wonder if audience.
Sorry, go on. It's fine.
No, I just kind of had the thought. I wonder how audiences at the time would have received Hartnell's kind of limited inclusion. If people would have been disappointed, or if people who grew up watching Hartnell would have grown out of it by that point and wouldn't be watching anyway. Or
I think maybe people would have been aware that he left the show due to ill health, so maybe they weren't expecting a big part from him, but just appreciated that he was there.
Yeah, perhaps.
Maybe not like the 50th where the classic Doctors were up and available to do it, and they just didn't bother putting them in.
Yeah,
which kind of annoyed people.
But I guess it makes sense, kind of, if you look at these kind of classic Who crossover events. So for anniversaries, they get everyone they can involved, and
take note, Chibnall. That's what we want to see. Talking of Chibnall,
it would definitely make
Sorry.
Pardon? I was just going to say it would definitely make the 60th stand out if they literally tried to get as many Doctors as possible in there.
Yeah. Talking of Chibnall, I apologise to touch on it again. The timeless child/children thing of there being Doctors before Hartnell. The story is the timeless child is that the Doctor, Hartnell's Doctor, there was Doctors before that, and they were kept secret from the Doctor by the Time Lords. I believe that's right.
That's correct. So like the Time Lords, whenever the Doctor kind of finished the regeneration cycle, they would like wipe their mind and make them think that they're starting a new.
Yeah.
Like.
So why do the Time Lords in this refer to Hartnell's Doctor as the earliest Doctor? One of them, the main guy says, "Show me the earliest Doctor," and then a picture of Hartnell appears on the screen.
I guess the earliest of that Doctor's memories cycle.
Doesn't make sense, does it, Harry? They didn't think
there's a lot of plot holes in Doctor Who. Like they were making it up as they went
along. The episode ends on a cliffhanger. That was good.
Yeah, it was like Perch.
Oh, Harry, I can't hear you. Harry's dead. He's frozen. Oh, no, he's back again. Harry, you froze. You froze.
Oh. Where do you want to go from?
I heard... let's start. We'll start it again. Start what you were saying again.
Yeah, it ends with Pertwee and Joe getting warped to the place, the Omega realm, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, sort of the black hole sort of thing, yeah.
That was it, yeah. I kind of find it... What do you think of this? Because I was actually quite surprised that for a large portion of this story, the two main Doctors are separated.
Yeah, I noticed that. It was something that stood out to me. I suppose it's quite interesting to see them together, then separated and trying to work independently of each other to reunite themselves with each other. I think it's interesting. I don't think you could get away with that now. Yeah,
like I was in two minds of it. Like in one mindset, I thought it was cool to have the have Troughton have to deal with a bunch of people who know the Doctor primarily as Pertwee and have to deal with explaining that to them without Pertwee's help. But on the other hand, kind of the big draw to a multi-Doctor story is those two Doctors interacting with each other. And that in this episode to me is definitely like the strongest aspect of it. So the fact that you kind of separate them feels like it's kind of holding back from the audience what they want to see. Maybe they felt like it would exhaust itself.
Yeah.
But judging from stories such as the 50th, where kind of from the moment Matt and David meet, they're not separated until David leaves at the end.
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah.
Like, yeah, I feel like there's enough potential within two doctors meeting if it's, you know, well written enough and their personalities like are different enough to clash for that to be sustained for a whole story.
Yeah. Episode 2, then we'll go into that. Picks up. When does it pick up? Episode 2. Does it pick up with? What I did like is the fact that each new episode picked up with like a 30-second recap of what happened last time, and then straight into new stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, so you could string it all together into like one seamless story if you wanted to.
Yeah, that would be good. I bet someone's done that. Edited the whole thing together as like an hour and a half.
Yeah.
There's a really great line in this where the second Doctor is with the Brigadier and Sergeant Benson, and they are looking at the weird hieroglyphic on the floor sort of thing. It's like the thing that looks like an ink spillage, and they're going up to it, and it sort of freaks out a little bit, and the Doctor just says, "It's all right. I think it was just hiccups." They also the Time Lords refer to the Doctors once again by their numbers. They say the second Doctor, the third Doctor, which, you know, I'm not saying anymore. We get our proper Doctor Who story set in a quarry. That was good.
Yeah, I noticed they were in a quarry. Yeah,
that's always the joke, isn't it? You're either in a quarry, a forest, or like in a swamp with Doctor Who.
Yeah, it's very often a quarry. Have you noticed, like, classic modern New Who hasn't shied away from quarries a good few times?
Like, as soon as we were there, I was like, here we are. This is definitely classic Who. What do you think to Bessie, the Doctor's car?
The thing that stuck out to me was when he first drove Bessie, there was like that little jingle, like the music. That just made me smile.
Yeah, there's some really good music in this. When we see the Jelly Guard monster things, you know, the things that look like giant spitballs. When we first see one of them walking in the quarry, he's walking in time with the music. So, like, as the beat goes, like, his little jelly arms are just like bouncing around. No, the music was strange.
Yeah, it was very kind of like, you know, of its time, but it kind of worked for this kind of like sci-fi TV show 70s. It felt very of the time, and kind of it got me into the right headspace for it. So here's the thing that Bessie reminded me of. Did you ever see, like, when you were a really little kid?
Brum.
Did you ever see Brum?
Yeah. It's Brum. It's the same car. Brum, Brum, here he comes. Brum, Brum, here he comes.
I couldn't get Brum out of my head, and that's probably to the detriment of Doctor Who, because I feel like Doctor Who wants to be taken a bit more seriously than Brum, but I couldn't get that image out of my mind, and that's my mature thinking. The Doctor driving a car, yeah, it's cool, and especially seeing as like the TARDIS is pretty much out of commission, it makes sense for him to have some kind of iconic vehicle.
Yeah, I believe that car now is at the it's in a motor museum down south towards Portsmouth, around there, and it's you know, there was a lot of other TV and movie cars. And I was watching TV a few weeks ago, and they were there on like I think it was the Repair Shop, which, for those who don't know, is a BBC television program where people bring in like their granddad's old gun and they fix it up and shoot people with it. It's a really interesting program. But this one, they were like, what was that? Sorry.
Well, it's the UK, so it isn't usually a gun. I'd like to think. I don't know. I've never watched it. Do people actually bring guns on the show?
No, it's usually like a rocking horse.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. No, that's the wholesome BBC content. I like
and they went to this motor museum, and I was watching it, and I'm like, "What is that car they're doing work on?" And I catched another plate, and another plate says WHO1, who won? And then it cuts out, and it's Bessie. It's the original Bessie car they're doing work on, but they didn't refer to it at all. It was almost the equivalent of them going, Okay, so today we're going to the garage and we're going to fit a new engine to a classic car, and it being a full kitted out 1985 DeLorean time machine from Back to the Future, and not once referencing it. It was so bizarre.
Yeah, didn't maybe they just kind of assumed / hoped that the people who watch Repair Shop wouldn't know what Bessie is. But last time I was reading this, I know my mum definitely remembers Pertwee Who, and she remembers like Bessie.
I think you could show a lot of Doctor Who fans Bessie and go, "What is this?" Even New Who, and they would probably know what it was.
Yeah, like, but I just remember like my mum telling me about like the Brigadier and Bessie and Pertwee being like the action doctor and having like all these army guys and stuff. So yeah, I feel like weird that a modern BBC show would just pretend that's
so
not.
Weird.
Yeah, because people would pick up on that, definitely. But didn't Pertwee...
Sorry, go on.
Well, no, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe there are like 3 Bessies and that Pertwee actually kept one of them.
I know he kept the Who-mobile, which is like the hovercraft, isn't it?
Oh. Okay, so he didn't keep a Bessie, but he kept
I'm not sure, I'm just looking. History. That's the history of the show. I don't want the history of the show. I just want to know. It looks like the 7th Doctor. The Doctor is delighted to be with Bessie in TV's Battlefield. So Bessie returns with the 7th Doctor. I'm not sure if he actually. I don't know. I can't see anything on here. It wouldn't surprise me. I know I've seen one of them at the Doctor Who Experience in Cardiff when that was still around. So yeah, I imagine there was a few made, at least 3. There's usually 3. You usually get an action one for stills, and one for interior shots.
Right. Okay, I see.
Yeah. Did you know the 2nd Doctor offers somebody jelly babies before Tom Baker's Doctor ever got the chance to?
I noticed that. I was like, yeah, I noticed that. I was like, oh, so it didn't originate with Baker.
Yeah, strange. I wonder where... Is that the first time the Doctor offers someone a jelly baby then?
The jelly baby thing is something that's so often associated as a 4th Doctor thing. And then, of course, like, Capaldi referenced it a couple of times. But, you know, it's a Tom Baker thing, the jelly baby.
Yeah.
At least in the public consciousness. So it was a bit like, oh, whoa, what?
Yeah.
To hear it. Earlier incarnation before Baker was even introduced doing it.
We'll go to episode 3, which introduces us to Omega.
I feel like it should be pronounced Omega, but everyone called him Omega.
Omega. Okay, we'll go with Omega.
Well, one person called him Omega, but within the show, generally, it was Omega.
Omega.
Yeah.
His voice is very unsatisfying, isn't it?
He's very dramatic.
I wrote down.
Omega!
I wrote down he reminded me of David Prowse as Darth Vader. Have you seen those video clips where you can still hear David Prowse?
You were a dyad later. Take her away.
Yeah. Yeah. I imagine it's like that where they probably thought, oh, we'll just dub this guy over afterwards, and it probably got too late and they didn't get a chance. I
feel like they always intended to use his voice. I feel like probably the fact that I thought it was fine for the character. You know, it was like this big evil villain, and for a crossover, they wanted to have like the biggest, most villainous villain they could. So they had this really, you know, intimidating guy with a mask and a loud voice.
He should return for the New Who. I'd like to see him return.
Omega. I mean, didn't he like effectively die at the end of this?
Oh
story?
yeah, and what? The Master hasn't, Davros hasn't, the Daleks haven't, the Cybermen hasn't.
Oh yeah, we could just bring him back.
Just bring him back.
Did they say that he's the guy who invented time travel?
Time travel, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Huh. Interesting.
There's a again, I'm pointing out the odd mistake every now and again. There's a shot where the camera cuts in close on Omega, whatever his name is. And Omega, and you catch the shadow of the camera on his cloak.
Oh, dear. I didn't notice these things. You have a more perceptive eye for this.
The other thing I noticed was the cloak he's wearing is very rustly. You can hear it a lot when he's moving. it's almost quite distracting. Like he'll be saying this line, and all you can sort of hear. I don't have anything. Can you hear this?
Not really.
No.
Vaguely.
I'm scrunching up a face mask. I don't have a cloak. Oh, I've just put my cloak in the wash and everything. What a fool. Yeah, you can sort of hear that. What really stood out to me about episode 3 is that they don't really care about showing you the inside of the TARDIS when there is nothing there.
What do you mean?
So there's a shot where Charlton says, "Quick, everybody into the TARDIS," and the camera turns around, and he opens the doors, and it's just a black box, and they all just stand in it.
On the outside, yeah.
Yeah. You know, like the Eccleston one where he opens the TARDIS and there's like nothing there on Father's Day. It's like that, but they all like, quick, get in. And they all get in like this little cramped space.
I suppose, trying to think back to the era, I guess kind of in a time of like, smaller CRT televisions, maybe that stuff just didn't stand out.
Yeah. But you would have thought even then you would have just filmed it from another angle.
I mean, yeah.
I don't know why I've got this in my notes. For episode 3, I just wrote the Brigadier is a bit thick.
In terms of just how he's always like, what's going on, Doctor? What is this nonsense, Doctor?
Well, he knows the Doctor by this point, doesn't he? He spent a good time with the third Doctor. He knows the second Doctor.
He met both the second and third
But he still doesn't believe him. Like when they open the doors to UNIT and they're on like a sand planet and he's like, oh, we're at the beach.
Well, where do you reckon we are?
Not where he thinks we are.
Now, see here, Doctor, you have finally gone too far.
I rather think we all have. What's it like out there?
There's sand everywhere.
Oh, splendid. Who's for a swim?
Do you realize what you've done? You've stolen the whole of UNIT HQ. Now, what am I going to tell Geneva? That the whole blessed building has been picked up and put down on some deserted beach? We're probably miles from London.
I'm afraid we're a little bit further than that, Brigadier.
You mean we're not even in the same country? There will be international repercussions. This could be construed as an invasion.
It's not just a matter of the same country, sir. The Doctor's right. We're not even in the same universe.
What? No nonsense, Benton. I tell you, that's a beach out there. It's probably in Norfolk or somewhere like that.
Oh, please, if you'd only listen to me.
Right, now, I'll tell you what we'll do. You two stay here. See that nobody wanders in. We can't have the place overrun with holidaymakers. I'll nip out, find a phone, and tell the authorities exactly where we are.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know how, if they've met, have Zygons been introduced by this point? Maybe that's a thing. I'm dubious about that.
I did notice. I did think that halfway into this episode, I did start to think, isn't this episode called The Three Doctors? And so far, we've mainly only seen 2, and now they're on their own. So it's really just one Doctor.
I think when it was just looking at Pertwee, that was kind of the least engaging stuff for me, just because
that's what you would be getting anyway.
Yeah, that's what you'd be getting regularly each week, and for this kind of event anniversary, I guess you'd want something a bit different. I felt the same way when I first watched The Day of the Doctor for the 50th.
Yeah.
Until David Tennant appeared, I was asking, where's David Tennant?
I like the fact that every set, every location they go to has a completely flat floor. Everything is the same black flat studio floor. Like now they might be walking on some gravel or they might put a stone down, but it's just like this black studio floor every single time.
I mean, I guess someone described kind of classic television, classic Doctor Who once. It was in a video. I think it was Clever Dick Films, if you ever watched him. He's got pretty good videos. He kind of documents the history of kind of each Doctor era pretty comprehensively. Okay. And his introductory video, he says that to get into classic Who, you can't compare it to the standards of modern TV. You need to think of it almost like you have to think of it more like theatre and have that suspension of disbelief.
Yeah. Oh yeah, by no means am I trash. Well, why do I not find this enjoyable at all? I found this story's been massively enjoyable. It's Doctor Who, for God's sake. Of course, I'm going to love it to bits. But because we've been watching so much New Who and talking about it and watching all these extras and researching it and, just endlessly talking about Doctor Who for like about 3 hours every week. When you suddenly are thrown to 1973, you see such a stark difference, and it does stand out. I imagine if I was to sign up for BritBox and watch all of these, I would eventually become numb to the differences, and I just wouldn't see them anymore.
Yeah. I think kind of when moving to kind of a new format or a new way of presenting something, there's always kind of that transition.
Yeah.
Like kind of based on just this, and like I'm not clamoring to watch more Pertwee, but I don't know, maybe a Pertwee solo story would be more focused, and because that's what I'd be expecting, I'd be able to get into bits of just him. But for this anniversary special, I was mostly kind of itching for that multi-Doctor action.
Yeah. What do you think to the Dark Side of My Mind sequence where the Doctor has that weird slow motion fight?
That was I was digging that. Like,
It went on a
slow
bit too
motion
long. It
fight.
went on a bit too long for my liking.
Yeah, I mean, isn't that quite an arc? Isn't that something that the Third Doctor was quite known for? Like getting his fists out, doing some karate chops.
Yeah, he was like the action Doctor, wasn't he?
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I guess in that regard, this is a kind of a more artistic. Maybe it's within the context of the Third Doctor. This was a very kind of different change of pace. This kind of slow-mo, interdimensional fight thing. I dug it. I thought it was cool. I liked the way it looked.
Yeah. So episode 4 kicks off. Sorry, go on.
I mean, yeah, just like I thought it looked kind of weird, but kind of cool. I was digging it.
Yeah. So episode 4 kicks off with the slow motion fight. We're still in it. And we get another amazing second Doctor line where he sort of talks about the magic lamp, and he says, "You rub that magic lamp and shallably, McGallably, zoop, anything happens." One thing that I really noticed episode 5 is how gullible Omega is. He's so gullible. Anything. Sorry, go on.
I guess he's just kind of like so caught up in his own mind and his own head that he kind of. Yeah, he's just very susceptible at that point. Because how long is it?
Sorry, go on.
How long has he been in his own his like dimension of his?
No idea, but long enough for his head to disappear. I feel so bad because I know it was cutting edge at the time and it was amazing and all this. But the scene where he lifts off his helmet to reveal he has no head, I laughed so hard.
I actually thought the way that shot was composed, the composition of it was pretty cool, and that like where his head would have been, you can see Trout and Pertwee.
That's what I found it so funny because like just in the background you could just see Trout and Pertwee like this, like almost like scooping into the shot. I just found it so funny because what I was expecting to see was almost like a skull or a deformed face, something quite scary, not just nothing.
I mean, maybe Omega is, like you said, a character who warrants being brought back for a New Who story to like really get a modern slant on him and see if that does him better justice.
Yeah, did you notice his mask pops up as well at one point, and you see the actor's face underneath?
Oh, I didn't see his face underneath. I saw the bit where like Trout flipped up and he's like, "Oh, word, no."
That's good, though. That's good. No, but there's a scene where he's really angry, where Omega's really angry and he's shouting and he bangs his headphones, and as it goes back, the flap opens and you see he's wearing like a balaclava, and you just see like the chin of the actor underneath.
Oh no, I missed that. The thing is, I was just expecting him without the mask to look how he did in like the weird like Black Void fight, because in the Black Void fight he didn't have the mask on; he just had this really grotesque face. Didn't
was that Omega?
I thought that was meant to be Omega. Was it not meant to be Omega?
I'm not sure. I'm gonna have a look. I don't think it was. I think it was just like some twisted pig thing, wasn't it?
Oh, was that just like a machination of Omega's mind?
Maybe, I think so. I'm just having a look. Yeah. I've just Googled the character. I can't seem to see anything that would suggest that that is who he is. No, I think it is just like a weird alien creature thing.
Ah, right.
What else do I have in my notes here? Oh, did you notice that the two doctors were able to run from Omega to the unit base quicker than the Brigadier was able to drive there?
Well, that's because when Time Lord's got to go, he just got to go to.
Right, okay, I understand.
That's another multi-doctor power. Like it's like the
super speed. They run twice as fast because they're both there.
Yeah, it's like it's we're going to engage Time Lord speed. Yes, quite. We have to double our feet polarity. You not see that scene? Maybe you didn't see the extended version, Tim. Because that scene was in mine.
What I saw was a dusty TARDIS interior. There's a scene where they're all stood around the console and the top of the column that goes up and down. There's just a thick layer of dust on it. Did you notice that? Oh, Harry's frozen again. I upset him with my comments. Oh no, he's back.
Did you finish the thing you were saying about the TARDIS interior looking dusty?
Yeah, I did, yeah.
Well, you see, I know that the TARDIS has been out of commission for a while, so actually, does the Doctor strike you as the type of person who can be bothered to clean?
Nah. No, not really.
I feel like none of those three incarnations would have bothered to clean up the TARDIS.
Well, we see in the Twice Upon a Time that William Hartnell, the first Doctor passes comment that the TARDIS is very dirty and that he should get one of his women to clean it. He says, "Why aren't you?" He points at Bill and says, "Why don't you clean it?" Which of course is a joke to the time difference of where the first Doctor comes from. It's quite funny. I didn't know when I was well off. Did you pick up on that line, which is also repeated in the 50th anniversary?
Wait, who said that?
I can't remember. I think the first Doctor mentions it. He says, "I didn't know when I was well off," and then in the 50th anniversary, the General says it. He says, "I didn't know when I was well off." All 12 of them, and then one of them says, "No, sir, all 13." And then we see Capaldi's scary eyes. The episode ends.
Moffat really likes this special, doesn't he?
He does. The episode ends with the Time Lords giving back the Doctor the one piece. Is a new chameleon circuit thingy, isn't it? So that he's able to travel in time.
It's not a chameleon circuit, it's something else, yeah.
What's the matter, Doctor? Well, everything worked out all right, didn't it?
Yes. For us.
I know what it is. It's because you had to trick Omega.
I didn't exactly trick him. I promised him his freedom and I gave it to him. The only freedom he could ever have.
What else could you do? It was either him or everything.
Time Lords. Look, they've sent me a new dematerialization circuit. And my knowledge of time travel law and all the dematerialization codes, they've all come back. They've forgiven me. They've given me back my freedom.
I suppose you'll be rushing off then.
No, not straight away, Joe. Of course not. I've got to build a new force field generator first.
Yeah, so he's able to travel in time, and that's the 3 Doctors, Harry.
Yep. I feel like I probably should have, for my first step into Classic Who, should have probably chosen something a bit more standard. There was a lot for me to process in addition to the fact that Doctors are crossing over. So I don't know how kind of exceptional an episode this was compared to most. Basically, I need to watch more Classic Who. But
who did you find to be the most engaging Doctor?
Definitely Troughton.
Yeah.
I feel I really want to watch some Troughton now because Troughton is just so, maybe it's because that's kind of a good way in because so much of what Troughton did and introduced is still kind of followed through into kind of modern Doctors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know Colin Baker always praised Patrick Troughton by saying Patrick Troughton did the job that enabled everybody else to be able to do their job. If that hadn't have worked, we wouldn't have had a Tennant or an Eccleston or a Baker or a McCoy. We wouldn't have had anything else.
Yeah.
So what did you think altogether, with this being your first dive into classic Doctor Who? Did you enjoy it? Did you watch it and was able to go, this is still Doctor Who?
Yeah, I mean, it was still. I feel like it's hard because I know that the kind of the Pertwee era specifically was so markedly different. In fact, there were much more stories, kind of, around this unit base and this unit team.
Yeah.
But obviously, you can still tell. The Doctor is the Doctor. The TARDIS is the TARDIS.
Yeah.
There's a companion. There's a monster / villain with some big alien plan that probably involves the destruction of the Earth or the universe or whatever. Yeah, it's still Doctor Who. It's still Doctor Who. It's just kind of presented with different flavor.
Yeah, I'm just looking now at the classic episodes I own and see what could possibly be our next venture into classic Who. It will be a while because we're going to do series 2 of New Who before we do any more classic. But obviously this time next year we'll do the 5 Doctors, which is basically 3 Doctors again, a man in a wig and some footage of Tom Baker. We could do An Ark in Space, Destiny of the Daleks, Sharda, the movie. That might be a good one to do.
The movie could be good, yeah.
Because it sort of acts as a pilot itself.
Yeah.
Or we could go right to the beginning and do An Unearthly Child.
I wouldn't mind singing An Unearthly Child.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
What we need to do at some point as well is I really want to do that episode where I pitched you a few days ago where I just read out really bad Doctor Who reviews and you got to guess what episode people are talking about.
Yeah, that'd be wild.
Is there anything we haven't touched upon with the 3 Doctors that you think we should mention?
Can't think of anything. I think we've kind of.
What about that guy who walks around carrying a gun for 4 episodes? And then eventually gets home to his wife at the end.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I wonder what he made of all that. Did they even
see him return?
Did anyone get a chance to explain to him what actually happened?
I don't think so. No, poor bastard. He's just totally confused by the whole thing.
Maybe he just thought someone laced his tuna sandwich with something fierce and he just had a bad trip.
More than likely. So that does bring us to the end of our first venture to Classic Who with the 3 Doctors, the Doctor Who 10th anniversary special. It is Doctor Who Day. It is the Doctor Who 57th anniversary. Amazing that it's lasted 57 years. Well, not actually, you say that, but it's not amazing because it's a fantastic show. The only thing that I find amazing is that it's still on the air. Some idiot at the BBC hasn't pulled it off yet.
I know that this isn't a milestone for this date specifically, but it happened within the past year that Doctor Who has been back now for as long, now longer than it had been off the air.
Yeah. So that's such a good sign that and I know people are going to turn around and say, well, it's losing viewing figures and all this, and every program at the moment on TV is losing viewing figures. No TV program is reaching the numbers that we were in 2005. I don't feel you can obsess with overnight viewing figures because people don't watch TV the conventional way.
I remember checking Twitter every night when Doctor Who was on. Doctor Who trended in the UK. It got to the number 1 or number 2 on trending every time a new episode came out. So people were still, watching and engaging with Doctor Who.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
So I know it's strange because it's we have zero connection to that show, in the sense that we have nothing to do with it apart from the fact we just do this podcast. But on a personal note, that program is massively important to me. And I was thinking about it today before we sat down to do this. And when I met, it's such a shit name drop. When I met David Tennant, I said to him, I was like, this show is so important to me. And what I said to David was, even though I know the show exists outside of you and you're not actually the Doctor, but you are the visual representation of Doctor Who at the time of me, being obsessed with it. It is so important to so many people, and I think it would be a massive shame if something were to happen to it where it would disappear from our screens again.
I feel like if the show were to go off the air again, I can't see it happening anytime like within the immediate future.
Yeah.
If it were to happen, I feel like it would not take as long as it did last time for it to come back.
No. What was it, like 15 years it was off for, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, I feel like if you look at something like Star Wars, like, what was the gap between the end of the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy? Something like
1980. I want to say 87.
Yeah. So what was it, like 15?
Yeah.
15 years or something? 10 years? And then, like, between the prequels and ending and The Force Awakens, that was like 10 years. So, like, the gaps that people are having, like, breaks from things are becoming shorter and shorter.
Yeah.
So I feel like it would be at the very most like a decade that we would go without Doctor Who, but I feel like it would be something close to like 5 years if the show to go off the air.
And also, even when Doctor Who went off the air, it didn't disappear. We had Big Finish, we had the comics, we had the novels, so it won't disappear. I feel Doctor Who's going to be around.
Yeah, I feel like the fan base is strong as ever, and like I feel like as soon as it would like go, people would start missing it and demanding it would come back.
I would miss it immensely. It's been so. I now and again as a film student, I always think about what are the things that have inspired me to pursue a career in creative arts, and I'm sure you're the same. And it always comes down to the same things. It always comes down to Batman, Back to the Future, and Doctor Who. And the first out of all of those things was Doctor Who. Watching Doctor Who and then watching Doctor Who Confidentials and being like, how the hell did they make that?
Yeah.
I feel like by taking programs like that off the air that capture people's imagination, you then strip away the interest of people wanting to work in that industry.
Absolutely. I mean, I know that, like, obviously I'm currently like hoping to eventually be an actor, and my first introduction to the concept of what an actor was David Tennant, because I knew David Tennant from Doctor Who. I knew he was the Doctor. And then I also had this audiobook of How to Train Your Dragon that was read by David Tennant. And David Tennant obviously read the book in his normal Scottish accent. So
blasphemy.
At once, I was introduced both to the fact that, you know, David Tennant is not just the Doctor. He is someone whose job it is to play that character on TV, and he does other things as well. But also that he doesn't use that voice in real life. That's just a voice he does for TV. So, like, that was a big kind of, whoa, people do that in their lives.
Yeah. So, I don't know. You sang it at the start, but happy birthday, Doctor Who. You're the best program on earth, and we owe you so much. And with that, I'll say a tearful. Pardon, what'd you say?
Because you said it's a great show. I mean, like, there are other shows that I like more than Doctor Who, but that's probably not the best thing to say on someone's birthday.
Do you know what? Someone asked me the other day. They went, you do podcasts about Doctor Who, must be your favourite show. And I sat there and I just suddenly went, I don't think it is my favourite show, but it's the show I love the most. It might not be my favourite consistently, but when it's on and the impact it's had on me is greater than any other show will ever have or ever has had.
For me, it's just a very fun show to talk about. Like, it's been around so long. There's so many different opinions. There's such kind of a vast fan base. It's such kind of a cultural institution that when you talk about Doctor Who, you're not just talking about Doctor Who. You're talking about so much more than just the TV show.
Yeah,
there's so much to it. That's why I find it fun to talk about.
No, definitely agree. So I'll say goodbye. Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you for listening to our first classic Doctor episode. It's November at the moment. Stick around till next month of December, where we'll be talking to Jonathan Morris, We'll be talking to Daniel Evans. We'll be doing Born Again. We'll be doing a Christmas Invasion. And we've got a number of fun videos coming out in the meantime. So bye, everybody. Do you want to say anything, Harold?
Bye-bye.
Don't forget to click below to subscribe to the official
Bigger on the Inside podcast.